I'm very, very excited to be able to introduce you to our incredible guest tonight. I got to have a little bit of time with her on America's Mom, and I could feel her power, for lack of a better word, coming through my screen. I could just sense her intensity, her drive, her desire to see things be made right. Our incredible teacher tonight is an entrepreneur turned journalist. She's an activist. She's been defending political and educational rights of all Americans. She's spent the past 6 years evangelizing a direct and determined approach to fight actual bigotry, and has helped many parents and students alike to stand up to school administrators along the way. Throughout her career in the media, Sloan has gone after anti-Semitism in schools and in politics. She had her own personal experience with her own children in a Jewish school fighting anti-Semitism in her children's own school. Interesting, huh? She has spotlighted the funders of the Defund the Police movement. She's been consistently revealing the damaging effects of anti-racist critical race theory in our K through 12 classrooms. She is a contributor at the Federalist, the National Pulse, the American Conservative, and Law Enforcement Today. She received her undergraduate degree in psychology from Harvard University in 2007 while she was in her 30s. One thing that struck me the most about Sloan is she is so tenacious. Her background, and maybe she'll share a little bit tonight, is one of unbelievable challenges. She's the book you go to the library to read about, so you'll be inspired to do something with your life. She's absolutely incredible. Way before that, she had dropped out of high school after her sophomore year due to so much instability in her life. Sloan's very non-traditional education background and her experiences fighting for her own children, she is certainly one of America's mothers that you are going to want to listen to and take notes. What she's doing has spread to over 22 other states in the union, and she is a force. So help us welcome Sloan. I just could go on and on and on. How are you?
Wow, I'm great. This is going to be a tough act to follow. I mean, I'm like, wow, thank you.
It's all you. It's all you. Well, welcome tonight. Everybody is so excited to hear from you, and we're ready. Train us. Teach us how to do this.
Thank you very much. So you'll have to tell me because I'm not there, Sharina. By show of hands, can everybody just, let's be honest. They have a saying, we're going to cry in the dojo, like our little thing, and then smile to the world, right? So we can all be honest in here. We can keep it real. How many of you guys feel overwhelmed at the specter of fighting critical race theory in your schools or community?
We all are raising our hands.
Okay. So you say more than half the room?
Oh, easily almost the entire room.
Okay. All right. So I'm going to share a story before we get started. I just needed to do a little bit of level setting before that. So I am Sloan Rachmuth. I'm with Education First Alliance. And we have a group. We started January 6th, ding, ding, ding. And then we have spread to 33 counties in North Carolina and 26 states now. So what we're really good at is consolidating, finding the problem, and kind of a solution that we can copy and paste all over the country. So let's get back to our comfort level about solving this problem. My son was bar mitzvahed last week. I'm still reeling from the bills, but his Torah portion that he read came from Numbers. And it was a story of the 12 spies. And I love it so much because it applies here. So I'm going to, paraphrase everything. Obviously, Moses said to the 12 spies, hey, guys, go to Canaan, check it out. Got a problem over there. Let's see what it's going to take the land, etc. So 12 spies went over. All 12 came back. 10 of them said, wow, it is the land of milk and honey. It says as billed, but there are big, scary problems over there, and I don't think we're going to prevail. Caleb, Joshua, they're like, what are you talking about? Do you remember who our boss is? Do you remember who said we could do the job? What's going on, guys? Right? They went over there. They found what it took to defeat everyone, and they're the ones that survived, and the 10 others perished, right? The people that know that their steps are led by God, God works through people. You fight evil through people, and that God powers you for the job. He gives you your agenda for the day. That nagging feeling you have inside, it's not guilt. It's God saying, hey, have you forgotten you're my child and you have a duty? That's God. And so we're kind of here doing this mission. And so just to remember that, nothing is too big for us. So I'm going to share a little bit of my story because I know that you're all curious. You're Christians. Christians never get how they actually 5 years ago, Christians didn't understand how Jews worked. Now you guys know. Hello and welcome. You have critical race theory now in some of your churches. So actually it was 6 years ago. Yes, we had a Jewish day school. We took our children there and we thought, we're doing the right thing. Every parent does. Religious education is great. You should get it. But at the time, it wasn't so great because the people running the school, the teachers, were into critical race theory. Let me tell you how we knew. They took the map of Israel down off of the wall because it hurt people's feelings. And it was a Jews last. We're the cause of every problem in the world. It was Jewish supremacy, and we needed to stop it. So it's teaching young children self-hatred, hatred of Israel, etc. And we were like, what in the world? Well, now we understand that critical race theory, as it's applicable to K through 12, came out of Durham, North Carolina. It was a Duke project. Started in 1998, is perfected now in what we see. Originated in schools, went to synagogues, and now into churches, now into schools. And so I'm going to tell you the underpinnings of it all. Long story short, we were Caleb and Joshua. In our instance, we ended up basically shutting the school down after they canceled us. So the school got all the rabbis to write things. Oh, they're lying. How could this be? Boycotted our business and tried to destroy us in the media. And that was the gateway drug for me to become an activist. And so now I love showing parents that, look, the reactions that you're going to get are usual. It's nothing that we haven't been through, and we've got you. So now we have teachers actively speaking out, teachers who are teaching. They're not leaving the profession. They're teaching and saying, hey, I'm not going to teach this stuff. Thank you very much. And we're able to give the support network to everybody to fight, because being canceled, it's no joke. It's real. It can happen. And it's not fun. But we will never walk alone, right? We know we're not walking alone because we have God. But with this massive group we put together, Sharona, from experience too, it makes it easier when you're with an extended family standing up.
Absolutely. One thing that you said, you didn't go hunting for politics, but policy found you and you were thrust into it. And did anybody give you permission to fight back? Did you get permission to do that? I just wanted to make sure. I don't remember asking for it, but I will tell you that it was, it's humiliating. I mean, and I'll tell you, this horizontal oppression, Sharona, is what you're going to get. In other words, let's say that you're part of a small school, parents there, you think you have friends, etc. And the ones that try to keep you down the most seem to be the ones in your clique. Don't make waves. You don't want to be looked at as a racist. Don't air our dirty laundry. And we'll talk about that. That's a real thing. Absolutely. Has anybody experienced that so far yet? Yeah, it's amazing. So everybody has...
They have the workbook. I would like to show you a few slides with your permission. Would that be fine? Okay, so we're going to go through the workbook for a second. So you'll notice, I think the first part of it, you guys, that's going to be your rights. Is that what you see? Okay. Well, actually, you don't. You see what is critical race theory. We're going to go over that. We're going to break it down. 5 tenets of critical race theory. We're going to go that. We're going to go over that. But knowing your rights is important. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about this, because parents will think that they have a lawsuit, and we do help legally, you guys. But it's important to understand what's in your realm. So I want you to just take about 2 minutes without me talking to look over this right quick. and then we're going to get underway with our presentation. I want to talk to you about the formation of our group. When we started this group, we realized, actually, as Sharona told you, I was a journalist, and I had been covering anti-Semitism on campus and also terror recruitment within the U.S. So you'd be surprised, but Hamas, Hezbollah, and others like to go onto college campuses and recruit. And so when I first saw when I first saw the curriculum that was going into the schools, I knew it immediately because Israel has seen this same curriculum about 33 years ago when the PLO brought it out. So critical race theory is a Marxist, and we'll talk about it, it's a Marxist plan, but it was ushered in Israel. And you can see what happens in that instance when you demonize others and teach that revolution must be brought about by any means. And so that caught my attention immediately. But these are my teammates. This is my founding group. And so Aaron, you'll see here, Aaron sitting down on the left, he was a Black Lives Matter protester and was trained in critical race theory in Durham, North Carolina. That was, remember, the epicenter. And he got saved, and he immediately became an activist to share truth with everyone. And that was, he actually admitted to having therapy and really going through a hard time. Right now he works with us and he's with Blexit trying to share his experience. Danielle is my partner in crime here on the Red Jacket. She was saved in her community for school choice and is a really strong proponent. And Luke here, he is a very strong evangelical and really wants to, spread the gospel, if you will, of traditional education. This is our extended group. If you've ever seen most of you know Savannah, but if you've ever seen we have a lot of Facebook Lives. Dr. Nancy Anderson, she's over here on the far right, you guys. She is a board certified general surgeon that interfaced with critical race theory in a Montessori school. She quit her job and now she's an activist full time. So I always joke that if we ever need our spleen taken out or something of that nature during one of our meetings, she's the go-to person. She cannot do tummy tucks though. That's upsetting. Don't get me started, or facelift or any of the, okay. It's a girl thing, guys. You don't want to know. Okay. All right. So I don't really want to belabor the point, but I want you to know my credentials when I'm talking to you about these sort of things. So I did PhD work in media psychology, and that is this: the way people learn and remember when interfacing with media. Learning and remembering is important for behavior modification. So I left my PhD work early because I had an investor that wanted to invest in what eventually became a technology to change behavior. In other words, the research question we had was, how do we completely change someone to get them to behave long-term in a different way? That's important because that's what's been going on in schools that we need to reverse. Okay. So all of us are sort of like this, right? 2019, so long ago, how it started, how it's going. And literally, that's what's going on. So COVID came about, and in about, the priming of the pump was in 2019 educationally, and then it really got underway in the spring of 2020 in terms of the programming I'll be discussing tonight. So I want you guys to think of critical race theory as a movement. So it's not a piece of paper. It's not a history lesson. It is a movement. And I'm going to tell you what it is, and I'm going to show you what it is. I don't want you to believe me and take me at face value. I want you to test the evidence tonight. So the movement is to demonize families with fathers, straight people, completely religion and belief in God, capitalism, merit, and if you identify it as a male or a female. These do not seem related right now, but they are related. Okay, so let me tell you about the belief system. Okay, so again, this is a movement. So if we go back, it's a movement, but in that movement is a belief system that the education system, K through 12 now, wants to inculcate within each child. Okay, there are only two types of people. Okay, that's the belief system. And this matrix of oppression, this is given to teachers mainly. And this is also given throughout K through 12 nationally. And so here's how this works. This is the youngest that we're aware of. This lesson has been given is in the 5th grade. So this matrix of oppression is given out. And students are compelled to complete this as an assignment. So I had you read the rights that you have, right? I had you do that for 2 minutes. So you'll immediately see that this is a violation of speech. And really what it is a Title VII complaint, and that's compelled speech. In other words, a teacher can legally present this. We may not like it, but they're allowed to present it. What they are not allowed to do is force children into completing it, because what they're being asked to do is to implicate themselves as either privileged or targeted, right? And either one of them is good, because if you are a student of color or any of these folks on the far right side, okay, that's the problem. Because if you're taught, wow, you are targeted, that means that people don't like you because of immutable qualities. That's what's called racism. Stereotyping and scapegoating are both racist activity. So these are the sort of things that when students and teachers are forced to do it, that's a lawsuit. And we're looking into doing these things. So Sharona, you can pop on in, and if I need to clarify. Now you'll look also that this was 2007, this stuff was formulated. You'll see on the bottom in 2007.
Is this everybody feeling good about this? We're all
so
getting
this
it?
has been in the...
Oh, we're not feeling good, but...
Thumbs down.
Yeah. Everybody's
Okay.
good, but they don't feel good about this.
No me gusta. So we have a teacher who's been on Fox News repeatedly with our group. She's the first and only working teacher that wants to keep her job and is speaking out against critical race theory. And so she had to complete this. And the horrific thing is she was at a school that almost all the teachers are Black. She'd been there for 10 years. And as soon as this training began, and as soon as she filled out that she was on the left side, everyone else was on the right, she began being abused by her coworkers. So this actually, we understand that this isn't just something you present, right? It's something that's acted upon. So let me show you how this shows up. It shows up by giving students questionnaires, almost always finding without parental consent or permission. So if you look down at the bottom of the sheets, page 2, there's something called FERPA. That is student and family privacy. So these are surveys. These are actual surveys that are being given to, I think this was actually every 6th through 12th grade. This particular one was given, or 6th through, yeah. And so these are, again, parents didn't know, parents weren't asked. This is a violation of FERPA and PERFA. So that's, that's students' right to privacy and family. So I want you to be keenly aware of these surveys. We have to fight back, absolutely, because let me tell you something, guys. These are usually given on computers with a student ID attached to it. All right. And so this is what we call a social score. a social score, just like China. So that's what they're doing to our students. Here's another one. 7th grade homeroom. Homeroom, y'all. And this is part of social emotional learning. And so again, children are having to implicate themselves on their privilege. And so I'll read the questions if you're not able to see it. So I do not have privilege in these identities. So these are all separate identities. Socioeconomic, sexual orientation, religion, gender identity, employment. That's weird. As if. Physical ability, English speaking, ethnicity, just every question that is none of the business of anyone's school. So, or teachers. Here's another one. What is your religious preference? And so we can imagine if we look at that the oppressor list, if you're Christian, you're dead meat, right? You're already damaged goods and children don't know it. Then you go over here, what is your race? And so we already know what they're trying to do in every which way is to get children, again, into 2 boxes. There's only 2. You're either the oppressor or the oppressed and the targeted, or the privileged and the targeted. That's the way that they define it. Number 2, okay, so moving on. Number 2, every white person is a racist and responsible for holding blacks back. Okay, so that's the underlying issue of the movement. Remember, this is the critical race theory belief system that is being inculcated. I'm going to show you tweets. This is important. And by the way, you're going to find prominent teachers and prominent educators in your state that are like this. I'm going to read these to you. This guy happens to be on the state board, appointed on the State Board of Education in North Carolina. And 90% of the policies in North Carolina, he is making. Now, why? No one wants to be called the R word. And so he's really driving this whole issue. So FYI, I know some extremely nice racists, some of the most pleasant people you ever met. They're congenial, personable, even charismatic. This does not change anything about the fact they're functionally racist, just felt the need to say that. So that is, every white person is a racist, right? So that's part of this belief system. I don't know who needs to hear this, but white supremacy is a cannibalizing worldview. It will destroy us, blah, blah, blah. So white supremacy, which the foundation is presumably laid down on, according to these theorists, has no cure and will kill society. So if something has no cure and it's terminal, you can see that belief system on down the road would cause violence or a genocide or something of that nature. And these writings are pre-genocidal. And again, this is instructive because this is the head of the education system in North Carolina. He's gone unchallenged by Republicans and Democrats. This is a 2-party problem. So everything is coded. Thing you need to know about races is they're always incredibly cowardly and rarely say what they mean. Political is often a stand-in for things about which there is no contrary opinion. Also, Lewis was a politician. There's nothing wrong with it. Okay. I think it was Congressman Lewis that died probably. So this is another, every white person is a racist. So in other words, racists are nice and everything coming out of their mouth is coded and racist.
This really sounds like a religion, like a cult, like faith. It takes a lot of faith to be this man and to propagate this.
It absolutely does. But I want you guys to know that teachers are being indoctrinated into this. Absolutely. So the last one, I loathe the term Black American when referring to African Americans. I absolutely hate it. It erases Africa and claim to the continent as our ancestry. It uses a racial construct to describe an ethnicity. My ancestors did not descend from Blackness, but from Africa. Now, this is critical, guys, and this is why we're here. You know, Republicans, and I am one, I'm a conservative actually, we've for so long been beating the drum of school choice, and that's important. Our thesis has been, hey, listen, public schools lost cause, right? We're not going for that. Well, the liberals have taken over, progressives have taken over, and now we are on the front lines of this culture war. And so this is a dangerous point right here I want to make. Even if we have our children in homeschool or private school, it is our duty as Americans to stop what I believe, and I'm sure you do too, massive human rights abuses perpetrated by our own government. When you are telling young Black people, you're robbing them of their birthright, and you're telling them you're not a part of America. White people don't want you. This country will never give you a fair shake. This is a really serious problem. And we are freedom fighters. We are human rights fighters. This is beyond the dignity of this country to allow Black children to be told this. And so we are here to protect the human rights of our own citizens. Charity begins at home, and that's exactly what we're going to do. So the final thing that really, well, actually, second to the last final thing that we're going to focus on is the thesis that America is built on something called white supremacy. And again, when you're telling Black children that the country's built on white supremacy, you're robbing children of their birthright. You know, Black Americans are absolutely integral to what has made this country great and will continue to be. And we need to fight for that. So what I'm showing you is this. This is from something called CASEL, SEL, Social Emotional Learning. Colorado has CASEL, SEL.
Yes, we do.
And we're going to have to kick its proverbial hiney. This comes right out of the manual. Concerns dominant U.S. culture norms prevent materialism or acquisitive. I can't read this because of this thing. Okay, so basically, it's an orientation associated with health problems and unethical behavior. These norms are even more problematic when wealth and whiteness are conflated and uncritically accepted as indicators of success. This fosters a sense of white racial entitlement and dominance, as well as negative biases and stereotypes about people of color and those from low income background. Hardy har har har. You want to talk about negative biases and stereotypes. It pretty much connotes what happened in the lead up to the last sentence. In other words, hypocrite, anyone? So this is from CASEL.
I am feeling really angry, to be honest, right now. I have not read this before. Is anyone else feeling a little fired up inside? Yeah. It's amazing how they force these lines upon us and force these things on us to make us make a choice and make a decision. Isn't it interesting? They're putting us in these categories to force us to take a side. It's amazing.
Well, I'm glad you brought that up, okay? Because I'm going to show the next section is going to make you really angry. I'm sorry, but it will. So this is how it shows up. This was at a third grade class. The third graders were learning to understand the concept of white privilege. Congress is 90% white, governor is 96% white, military, blah, blah, blah. It goes on to say, because there is an overrepresentation of white people in certain things, you're white privileged, you third grader, you, and you will have to suffer unless, that's second grade, pardon me, unless you can do something else. So you can repent. White children must repent or become transgender or gay. So that is, they must engage in self-hatred and admit to their white privilege or become transgender or gay. Now, this is a kindergarten lesson, and it's everywhere, actually. This is a genderbread person. They're taught that mommy and daddy, well, first of all, they're taught that God doesn't get to assign your gender. Now, as Christians and Jews, we know that God doesn't make mistakes. Period. And so you are, number one, I want to tell you how serious this is. Number one, you're telling children that God does make mistakes and God might not even exist. And you're also telling them that mommy and daddy aren't allowed to assign you your gender. Can you imagine the terror? Let's just go psychologically here. The terror of a young child to challenge reality in that way, to gaslight in that way, that nobody is to care for you but you. You don't belong to God. You don't belong to mommy and daddy. They can't make the decisions for you. You can. You can decide if you're going to be gender queer or a boy or a girl. You can decide if you're going to express your gender in a feminine, androgynous, or masculine way. You can be intersex. You can be heterosexual, bisexual. Folks, this is kindergarten. It's happening all the time. And I want you to know that conservative, Christian, God-fearing families are coming to us all the time saying, my child is saying they're transgender. My child is saying they're gay. Fifth graders. It's happening all the time. This is indoctrination, and this is Satanism, sponsored by the government. This also, the gender unicorn. This is happening as well, and we are sharing stories about this all the time. It's happening anywhere from the youngest I've seen this one, I think, has been fifth grade on up, but it's the same idea. It's teaching anything is possible. Moreover, that you, the child, get to decide what that is. And you can either be white privileged and an oppressor, or you can do this. And think of how strong children have to be to resist something like this.
And I would just interject that these are the kind of things that we're seeing in Colorado. So this would be part of comprehensive sex education,
Yep.
Spread out throughout their day for any particular category they want to insert it in.
And so here is a social emotional learning exercise. This particular one was 7th grade homeroom. These are the ways that you can express yourself. And by gum, you better, if someone identifies themselves a particular way, you better honor that. You better call them that. You better not forget. Otherwise, you're an oppressor. And my whole team has tried to figure out what FTM or MTF. It's Friday, Tuesday, Monday, or Monday to, I don't know.
Female to male, male to female.
Okay, well.
Yeah, transitioning.
Oh, wow. Okay, well, I'm behind. The two-spirit is missing off of this. That's too bad. Okay. The next one, again, an SEL lesson. And it's explaining, you'll see that it's explaining the same thing, right? And so understand that your SEL lessons are going to be exactly the same. But it's grooming children to become transgender or gay. Period. Okay. So let me give you an overview of the beliefs. Again, this is a movement we're fighting and a belief system we're fighting. It's not a piece of paper. It's not in just a history class. It's in every single thing. Okay. Racism is racial prejudice, social, I can't see this. Hold on. Social and institutional power. Okay. Racism equals a system of advantage based on race. Okay. Racism is a system of oppression based on race, a white supremacy system, and the only hope for white children, okay, is to change their genders, not have one, or to become gay.
Are you saying like that's their penance? I mean, that's essentially what they're being led to. This is their penance for being white?
Yes, because there's collective punishment. So in other words, you're going to be scapegoated for, let me see if I can show you, for this. And I want to explain to you what this is. But let's go back. Scapegoating is a part of this, you guys. So it's stereotyping you, and it's stereotyping Black students. So both of those are terrible. It's scapegoating and saying you're privileged and look at what you're responsible for. You're the problem. And you best be believing that there's going to be punishment, or you engage in self-hatred yourself. Okay. So I want to explain to you what you're looking at. You're looking at a North Carolina chart, and I know that you have one in Colorado as well. For student scores, this is 3rd to 8th grade reading and math. Okay. So this gold star here, this is when Common Core came into our state. It was voted on late 2010. It was enacted 2011, 2012. So this is all demographics hit the skids. I mean, my goodness. Black students went from 40.7% were literate to 15.1 when this took effect. Now, the left-wing critics of Common Core are absolutely correct. The exploding achievement gap between Black students and white students, that happened under Common Core. And we can see that. I mean, we can see this top line here. Let me show you. Before Common Core, we had 73.4% of white students were literate in math and reading. And then we had a difference for sure, but it was still a little less than the majority, right, of literate students. Now, okay, and granted, the new math came in, right? There were some different standards. And now here this red star is, you see this over here? 2019 is when North Carolina, our state, instituted CASEL social emotional learning for the stated purpose of decreasing the achievement gap. So they got rid of merit, and then they brought in SEL. So all the lessons that I showed you previously, that is supposed to make up the difference here between whites being at 42.9 and students of color being at 14.3. And so they're saying that the kernel of teaching and the kernel of pedagogy, which was over here in 2011, that needed to be, the husk of that needed to be tossed out. We need to start new. We started new, and now look, and now we're going to start new again with social emotional learning, which is the Common Core from, I'm sorry, hell. And that's what we're fighting right now. Are there, yeah, what do you guys think?
Have, any questions or comments or concerns about what you've seen so far? I think they're in shock, Sloan. Like, we're in shock. It's very, what is CASEL?
Okay.
What is CASEL?
Okay. It's a great question. Oh, it's a fantastic question, because I've got a story coming up in the Federalist on what CASEL is. So I'm going to end show right now, and I want to just get some FaceTime with you guys. Hold on, stop share. Okay. All right. So social emotional learning is crap, actually. It's what you saw. I don't have another word for it. It is a brand of stuff, right? It's let me see if I can show you. I've got some slides to show you, but the thesis is that if children could get more in touch with their feelings and learn how to control their emotions and have different value system, then they'd be able to learn better. I showed you what the value system was already. So CASEL SEL, one of the main donors and contributors, obviously, is Bill Gates. So the guy that created Common Core, right? He created the problem Now he wants to create the solution, but also Mark Zuckerberg. And so we are really concerned about that because you've got the Zuckerberg Chan organization who has donated copious amounts of money to affect the election. And then you've got the same people who are dumping copious amounts of money into a very, very politicized system of Castle SEL, also collecting data.
I would, just to add to the SEL, the idea is that children with trauma cannot learn. And so they've decided that that is truth, so they're going to deal with their social emotional health to make sure that even children with trauma can learn at school because they don't know how to teach them. Obviously, if we look at that chart that Sloan had up, and obviously the kids stopped learning how to read, write, and do math. So they've decided, oh, it's not us teachers or what we're doing, it's that these kids have trauma. So we got to deal with their trauma, and then we can start teaching them.
Hey, look, it is the white teacher's fault. Let's be fair. 80% of teachers are white, and so that's pretty much across the board, you guys. And so they're saying that of course, the white teachers are the problem. If you saw that little thing from Castle, that they said that. But I've got a couple of things. Let me show you what the plan is for our state, just so we can kind of center on this. I'm sharing my screen, and my screen's a mess. Okay, here we go. And so here's how states are conceptualizing this, that we're going to build a support plan. We're going to strengthen adult SEL. Part of this social emotional learning and part of the duties is to share it with the entire community. This is activism. This is inculcating also adults, parents, etc. If you want to be a good parent, you're going to learn these ideals and norms. And remember, it's race and gender. Promote SEL for students. Use data, ding, ding, for continuous improvement. You saw the surveys that they're using, right? Okay. Can you see this? Trina, can you see the orange on the left side?
A little bit in that little circle. I can't tell exactly what it says. Can someone?
Okay. Yeah. Hold on one second. Let me. How about now? I'm going to read it to you. Do you see a screen that has orange on the left-hand side?
Yeah, you're good.
Wonderful. Okay. So this is how SEL is put into math. So I want you guys to know that in every subject, whether it's art, English, whatever it is, it's going to have SEL into it. This is how they put it into math. Have students generate additional vocabulary words that extend their emotions vocabulary. That seems like a great way to bring up math literacy, doesn't it? Provide vocabulary words for feelings: elated, blue, down, rejected, disappointed, angry, enraged. Sharina, this was actually your feelings to the T.
Yeah. Where's my math? Wow.
Set up small group discussions that allow students to discuss how and why emotions can influence our behavior.
I guess I'm confused. I mean, where is math? I don't understand. This is...
Well, math, yeah. And did you know that math was racist? I don't know if you knew that or not.
I'm learning so much tonight.
Yeah. So, this is the movement that we're fighting, and there's a way to do it. And you have to remember, we're Caleb, we're Joshua, right? And we're sharing, we're in the dojo, we can cry in here, but as soon as we leave this room, it's go time.
Yeah? Yeah? Yeah. We got it.
Okay. Gotcha. So let's talk about next steps, right? Because there is a way to do it. So before I get to that, though, before I share my screen, I just want to tell you that we in North Carolina, let me tell you about the successes that we've had and the failures, because I am an entrepreneur, so I love to fail, because if we test something out and we fail, we know what not to do. And I've seen the mistakes that a lot of people have made. So the mistakes that most people make is, first of all, not having evidence. Number one mistake. And so we see it all the time. People will watch Tucker. They will go to the school board meeting the next day or go to the principal's office, kick the door in and go, I just know critical race theory is going on in here. I know it. And you're going to stop it. How many, by show of hands, how many people have done that before?
Not alone. 2 of us at least.
Okay. All right. And so it's much better to walk in with a paper and say, listen, this unicorn, I appreciate the sentiment here, but it's not going to work for the following reasons. So evidence is king. All right. And so if you're going to become a chapter of, we have an EFA chapter in Colorado, if you're going to start one, whatever, we've got a tip line that we let teachers anonymously and students and whoever give us evidence so we can vet it and take action. So number 1, evidence is king. Number 2, knowing who to talk to. So let me ask you this. Who creates official channels?
The administration?
Officials.
Officials.
Right. So I am not a fan of going through official channels all the time. In other words, let's just say that you get the unicorn, right? I am a proponent of talking to the teacher and saying, hey, where did you get this? Because you have to know where the problem originates. Where'd you get it? It's cute.
And we're using this page right now?
Yes, let me pull that up to make sure.
Just so that you guys can follow along, and I would be writing notes. If I had a pen, I'd be writing stuff down right now.
Yeah.
This is boss information right here.
Yeah, that's okay. So magnify. We want to, so yeah, let's go. If you're not on this page, I don't know what page it's on your manual, but it's the one with the big fist fighting for public education. So evidence is king. You've got the evidence. Where did the material come from? And so you want to figure out, you really need to be kind of surreptitiously gaining the information. Because guys, if we don't know where the problem is, we can't fix it. So we're trying to ascertain whether it came from a training, whether it came from the state or the district. Is it required? We need to know. Who's responsible? Screenshots, copies. Is it legal? So we went through some of the things that are not legal. In other words, if let's just say that the gender unicorn had everything erased, you know, the labels erased off of it, and students had to get those answers right on a test, that's called compelled speech. That is not legal. And things are going to fall into 3 categories. Unethical. Okay, so maybe the gender unicorn was presented in 3rd grade, and it was just presented, was not compelled speech, but it was age inappropriate. So that's unethical. And to your point, Sharina, looking at the SEL stuff was outrageous in math, right? That is an example of that curriculum frustrates the educational purpose of math, period. And so when you go in to talk to the teacher, you're going to have your evidence. You're going to say, what in the heck's going on, right? And you're going to classify it in one of those 3 things. You cannot just go in a bubble of madness, right? Okay, so let's just say that the teacher says, hey, I got this in a teacher training. Now you got something. We need to find out what the training was called, who paid for the training, who are the other teachers that went, right? We need to start that process of maybe doing a FOIA or something like that. So multiply. So, you know, when I fought my battle, I was alone. I mean, I'm a self-starter, right? I mean, I can call, I can figure it out, etc. So I never socialized that this was going on with other people. And so you really want a support system of 5 friendly sources, someone from the church, maybe ideally someone from the school, But you're going to need their support when you come forward, because coming forward can be very rattling. And so request a meeting with the teacher and principal. You always want to record it. You want your phone on. You want a recording device, always.
Did you guys catch that?
Okay, so we're going to do some assertiveness training, but you want to use assertive techniques. You want to be very direct. If needed, prepare to record. It's always needed, so record it. Figure out a way. And then after you've had this meeting, follow up with the friendly people. Tell them what happened. You want to talk this out before and after. And then follow up email. You want a paper trail to the principal and teacher, right? But we need to find where this is coming from. And then you want to reach out to parent support groups like ours, email, the superintendent, PTA members. The more you can get it out, the better. But look, you can't be emotional about it. And it's a very emotional thing. And so again, you want to classify this when you post it or send a letter or what have you. This gingerbread thing came up. It is illegal. Here's why. Because my child had to take a test, had to get this right, etc. Also, it's unethical. It is age inappropriate. In addition to that, this was given in a math class and it frustrates the purpose. Those arguments are lock solid and no one will ever be able to get out of them.
Yes, ma'am. Go ahead. Sloan, we have a question for you. Illegal. And that's under the first magnify. The last line there gives you your 3 that you're looking at in context with whatever situation's going on. This is so awesome. Thank you. Yes, ma'am. So we do FOIAs or CORAs, which is the citizens, it's an open records request. And you have access to all public information in your schools, your elected officials, anything like that. You can make a request to the administrative offices. And they have to provide that information for you. And they have a time frame they have to provide it for you in also. So it can't be 6 months from now. Sometimes there's a cost attached, but I don't know if the school districts there's a cost attached. Sometimes there is. Yes? And I wonder if it might vary district to district. So it could be different district to district. But if you can't get information, then you submit a CORA. If you don't know how to do that, Google it, because that's how I do it.
I'm going to show you. You know what? I've got you covered. Oh. I'm going to show you right now. Okay? Let's see. Okay, here we go. All right, so here's one that I made. I was looking for this. My research question, and you need to have a very good question, you guys, is were certain schools with very outspoken teachers and principals, were they holding back white students and not Black students after this year of being in isolation? And so this was my research question. So you want to know you want to cite your law. I hereby request the following records. A redacted list of all students. So anytime you're asking for students, and you probably won't be. Let's see if I've got a better one. Let me see if I've got a better one. Hang on. Let's see. I've got so many. I want to make sure that I give you.
While she's looking for that. So this is the power that you have as a citizen. You get to ask these questions. You get to have this information. It's all yours. you get to do this. And Ted Misha might even be able to help you a little bit too, those of you who are local. And I know we have the privilege of having Miss Emily Williams, Representative Dave Williams' wife, here tonight with us. She's amazing, and I know she knows how to do this.
Yeah, wonderful. I mean, FOIAs are great. And here's another technique. Let's say that you're going to FOIA the district. What I would do is I'd have 10 parents do 10 different FOIAs coming from different directions. That way, you know, you can get around being charged for it. In other words, I can ask for 20 documents. They're going to come back and say, oh, it's going to cost you. The more diversified sources you can get for FOIAs, the better. Here's another one. Pursuant to the law, I request the following. I wanted to see, and you guys all need to know this. This is the first FOIA y'all need to fire out. You want to know how many people are alleging sexual orientation discrimination, gender discrimination, and all that. And here's why. If they're focusing on gender discrimination to solve some sort of problem, you want to ascertain whether or not the problem is there or not. Now, I've never had any school system come back and say, yes, we've had problems with that. No one has problems with that. And it begs the question, why in the devil are we teaching about sexual orientation and gender discrimination if there's no baseline problem? There's no reason for it, right? And so asking the questions in a very smart way, it's paramount. So let's go back to the gingerbread training. Here's my question if I were doing a FOIA for that. I would say to the district, I want all trainings done between this date and this date. I also want to see the contracts that were made because I want to know how much of our taxpayer dollars went to promoting transgenderism and went to promoting grooming children and went to promoting human rights abuses.
That is so good. Yes, ma'am.
So I also just looked up in Colorado, the law is that you only have to have a single party of the conversation to be able to record it. So if you are recording it as yourself, as long as you are a party of the conversation in Colorado, that counts as a legal recording.
What she's saying, in Colorado, only one side has to know they're being recorded.
Yeah, California is two-side. Yeah, that's a good point. I mean, they're all different. But yeah, we've got someone being charged with felonies for doing that. But yes, and so it's single party consent. And you can do it different ways. I mean, I've got, you know, a lot of different equipment that does that. The phone usually is good. When you're in meetings that you have to put a phone down, you want to carry two phones.
Wow. This is awesome. All right.
Yeah, but you know, you need to definitely protect yourself. Okay, and so now let's go down the list. So you want to meet and then you want to mobilize. So you can do it a couple of ways. You can reach out to parent support groups like Ed First Alliance. You can start one. The benefit of being with Ed First Alliance is we give you just copious amounts of training and support and making sure that we've got the right target. It does you no good to go to, and I know it's fun, but it does you no good to go to a school board meeting if the problem exists at the state. It does a little good, but if you're expecting school boards at the district level to be a firewall for what the state is pushing down, you're going to be sorely disappointed.
Your county has home rule. That doesn't always necessarily mean that the school boards are going to support that. They, you know, sometimes you have a school board that says, yeah, we'll do whatever we want, Elbert County. Sometimes you have a school board like mine that says, as soon as the governor issues an emergency order, that's what we're doing, it's the law. They're subject to each county and their own attitudes. So I wish it was consistent.
I can tell you right now that social emotional learning is so embedded because it's embedded on all these risk surveys and this, you know, suicide prevention and safety stuff that I am telling you, we have solid conservative school boards that vote for this stuff, that vote for doing the surveys and SEL. And honestly, it's a vexing problem that we're going to have to get darn aggressive about figuring out how to extricate, a lot of someone's have said, gosh, if we can just go in to the school board meeting and get a replacement for SEL, or we can go to the state, I think that's what's going to be great. Let's do that. We don't need a replacement. SEL is replacing the academics that used to be as a part of the curriculum.
That's exactly right. Mm-hmm. And so what the theory that we've kind of come under here, not having seen your graph before, was that, man, they don't know how to teach our kids anymore, so they're just going to indoctrinate them. And there's an element of truth to that now that we kind of see the bigger agenda here. So people are mobilizing, they're getting together. What do you do from there? Right.
And you want to email the superintendent. I mean, again, these are going through official channels, and that typically doesn't work unless every single thing we have here, you guys, you've got to publicize it. So you email your superintendent. You make a big deal, a big spectacle about it. Do a Facebook Live, get it posted everywhere, get it posted to your Telegram. Email lists are king. Make sure you got email lists where you're telling everybody about it. So you could email PTA members. That's another good one. It doesn't do you any good to just email them because they're probably going to do next to nothing. You've got to publicize that. You've got to say, hey, we've delivered this, or you can hand deliver it and do it via Facebook Live. Monitor. I want you guys to create pseudo accounts or sock puppet accounts. And I want you to get into all of these different Facebook groups because teachers talk. And so you'll learn a lot of intel by that. So you need to monitor these groups that the teachers are in. Ask to review textbooks in person. That is, of course, if they're still available to review. But you have a right to review that stuff. Ask for lessons plans in advance. Review child's assignments.
How many of you guys are already doing that, or to some degree? You've already started looking at their stuff. Okay, so I thank you for your honesty. So this is something that right off the bat we can start doing right away and seeing what they're reading, seeing what they're doing. We had an experience, my daughter was in the IB program, International Baccalaureate, which is preparing them to be global citizens. That should have been a ding, ding, ding for me, but yep. I thought, oh, this is so great, higher education. And they had Marxist apologetics books in there. And I had looked up the author and was like, whoa, hang on a second. And it's everything that Sloan's been talking about, trying to create, trying to cause my daughter to feel apologetic for being an American. It's amazing. And it really is happening. Yeah. Yep. White and American. Yeah. It was all there, all of it.
So let's go through this exercise right quick. If you look at assertive communication, okay? And so let's just take the situation. We've got a third grader. Let me see. Let's say we've got a privilege inventory like the one I showed you, given in the 5th grade. Okay. What I want you to do is I want you to get in groups of 2 or 3 right now, preferably with someone you don't know.
Awkward.
What I want to do, you guys, is simulate the awkwardness you're going to have saying these things in front of people you don't know. So maybe let's do groups of 3, you guys. And so we're going to take that, a survey's being given.
Let's go ahead and start moving into groups while she's chatting.
A survey's been given. No one has been asked. Parents do not know about it. And you're going to craft out the conversation. You've already gone to the teacher. The teacher says, oh, I don't know, and gives you some sort of weird answer. This is the conversation you're going to have with the principal.
Everybody has to play. Come on now.
Okay, so you're gonna define the issue, and you're going to say, can you tell me why? Will you explain? So you're going to ask these questions. And then the I statements. Let me tell you about the I statements. It's on the next page. I understand what you're saying, but I disagree. I feel frustrated when my child comes home to complain about being mistreated by her teacher. And you know what? I don't like coming down here and having meetings like this, right? So you're going to come up with a few I statements. And then the close, how do I get my needs met? In other words, what is it going to take to make sure that I don't have to come down here again? Okay.
Right.
I'm giving you guys 2 minutes to collectively come up with those statements. And then I want you to read it to each other. So
Sloan, will you review one more time what the situation is? Because they're all in groups. They're all ready to go. The situation again is?
Situation, 5th graders given a gender inventory without their parents knowing about it or consenting. The teacher that you went to said, oh, I don't know where it came from. And you are meeting with the principal. You need to define the issue. You need to write 3 or 4 pointed questions. And then you need your I statement. You need to let them know. So let me share my screen and show you this form we're looking at.
Awesome.
Here it is, this one. And if you need a few suggestions for I statements, they're right here.
I feel like we need Eye of the Tiger playing in the background.
Oh, yes.
Oh, yeah. We are getting fit for the fight.
We are.
This is the gold right here, role playing. This is so good.
Yes. And so what I want now is you have 3 people. And so here's what we're going to do. One person is going to be the parent. Okay. There's going to be the principal and the teacher will be the other 2. Now, let me set up some parameters. When you come in.
Sloan, hang on just one sec. You guys are doing awesome. It's so exciting. I can hear you all like you're getting in the fight. We're gonna do a second role play. So hang on, everybody listen for just a second. One of you gets to be the parent, one gets to be the teacher, and one gets to be the principal. Okay? All right, Sloan's gonna set it up. You guys ready? Go ahead, Sloan.
Okay. So the parent, let me tell you how I want you to act. When you come into the room, you want to do everything in your power to make sure that you are going to be able to stand. You want to offer them a seat. Make up some excuse. My tailbone hurts. I have a pain in the butt, which is sort of true. Okay. You want to make eye contact. Your gestures. I can show you a gesture that makes me crazy. That one, right? The only thing I really liked about John McCain was his gesture. It was like this, right? If you're one that wants to do this, when you do this, it makes you look weak, right? So minimize your gestures on that. And then your tone. I can go in and say, I really don't like coming down here. And I really don't like it when that sounds like a whiner, right? I don't like taking time out of my day to come down here and to talk about an issue that's illegal, unethical, and quite frankly, un-American, something like that, right? It's a totally different feel. So what I want is you guys to do some role play. This is going to take about 5 minutes because I want each of you to play the parent. And for the principal, whoever's playing the principal, I want you to be a pain in the rear end and sit there and say, what? You don't like people being taught the truth? Something like that. You ready? All right.
And all right, Sloan, take it away.
Okay. So by a show of hands, again, we can be honest here. How many of you guys felt really awkward?
About 30%.
Yeah. It's, it's not exactly fun, but it's needed. And so, a lot of parents have told me, gosh, I don't want to be called a racist. I would rather be called a racist by somebody I do not like, do not respect, and will not know 5 minutes from now, right? Than to have my child 2 or 3 years from now say, Mommy, why didn't you do anything? I mean, this is child abuse. We saw from the slides. I mean, this is scratching the surface, the slides I showed you. This is human rights abuse. And we have to save our children. So and it starts with us. And so briefly, do I have permission to go about 5 minutes over?
We have 15 minutes left.
Oh, 15
of
minutes
our
left.
time. Mm-hmm.
Okay. So we saw that, but I really want to show you guys something that will inform, I hope, what we do going forward, just as a movement. And this kind of guides our work here at our organization. And I want to show you this. Let me share my screen. Okay. This is going to look like a lot of hubbubaloo, but let me play this. Okay. So when we look at a spectrum of allies, this is what we work on. So let's say that you want to organize your district. Okay. This is a schematic of all the people really in the universe of people out there. We have active allies. That's people like you and me and parents that are getting out there. We have what's called passive allies, and that's people that they don't know what to do, or they're fearful. They don't know how to manage this. And that's potential donors, people who are working all the time, people that don't have kids, but they want to help, right? And so the unengaged and the uninformed, the neutral, there aren't a lot of those these days. So you've got the passive opposition, people that definitely aren't on your side, but they're just not saying things. That's a lot of teachers and a lot of the principals, right? And then you have active opposition. So teachers unions or teachers organizations, those are the people who are actively against you, right? All right. So this is kind of, all right. So believe it or not, all we need to do is get 50% collectively of one of these slices over to the left side. Now, right now, we're either you guys talking to each other, so we're just sticking in this active allies, or we send our messaging to the active opposition. So we're only dealing in our own people or these other people. The reason why progressives have won is because this spectrum of allies, this is how progressives organize. So we're taking literally a page from their playbook. So they're dealing with, instead of, you'll see them, they rarely talk about us over here. They're talking into the neutral space. Okay. So our messages, and I would challenge you, they have to be able to get neutral people to understand what's going on. You understand that getting the neutral people will also, by definition, get these passive allies to come into the fight. Why? Because they won't be as fearful, and they'll see that they can jump in and help. Oh, I can't say that it's racist, but gosh, I can't put a post up here about the scores going down or whatever. So all of our messaging needs to go into that. Okay, so this is kind of in our state how it's broken down. 5% of registered voters, if you're looking at affecting change of the school board, for instance, 5% are here. Whoops. 25% are here. 10% there. So this is 50% of registered voters are on this issue. Now, the reason that the Chicago Teachers Union and the NEA now and others like them, other organizations are very successful. The reason they're successful, they don't message to parents. They message to the community. So they make everything in and affecting the community. We've got a great opportunity to do this. Let's not talk about critical race theory. Let's go out and knock on doors. I'm a big fan of this, to people that maybe don't have kids. Give them a copy of that survey, or have a young kid give it to them and say, you know what, we're seeing who will fill this out. No one will. And you'll say, look, mister, we're fighting against this being given to third graders. Can you sign our petition? Then you've got their name and email address, right? You get the petition. Your goal is to get 10,000 people to sign it who are neutral. Let's figure out what are the things that would make neutral people come off the sidelines. Now, you've got a lot of Hispanics in Colorado, and let me tell you something. This agenda, everything that I showed you, they do not like. You should be getting every Hispanic onto our side. You could do it this way. Do you think boys should be in the girls' bathroom? I mean, it's the things that Republicans are afraid to say, quite honestly, because the answer will be an unqualified no. And then you'll show them the survey and you'll let them know that there's basically a child spying program and they want to know what's going on in the household of every immigrant. Neutral messaging. And so with our movement, we are dedicated to that. So let me show you this as well. So push activism. This is what we used to do. Collect data from school board meetings. You know, you have a watcher who takes notes and says, wow, this is what they're going to do in the school board, etc. And then you go and you share it via social media. You share it via your Telegram group, maybe your Facebook group, whatever it is. And then you post articles about school issues via email lists and social media groups. Or you do letter writing campaigns to school and elected officials. In other words, you're pushing everything out, right? So there's a new way. And you're usually talking to the 5% of registered voters already on your side. If you're doing letter writing campaigns to elected officials, I mean, that's good. It's not as good as going in person, I will say, and as good as raising Cain. All right. So the new way to do it, pull activism, attending networking and social events that are not politically oriented to talk about these issues. And so I don't know what that would be. I mean, even attending, farmer's market or getting a booth there or something, that would be something that's, a neutral event to introduce things we're talking about with neutral messaging. Hosting a community family event and block parties. You could, beginning of the school block party event, etc. And then you could figure out a way to have something where you're able to talk about these things in a neutral way. Fellowship is always the best way. Starting a welcome wagon service to meet and befriend newcomers to your community. No one does that anymore. And so you can find out, I think I don't know how you find it out, but you can find out like who bought houses or whatever. Go over there and knock on their doors. This is your school. This is this. This is that. And start those conversations going. It takes a little bit of an effort. But progressives have done this all the time. We're talking to ourselves and we're saying, gosh, can you believe what they're doing? Can you believe? Well, we need to pull people into our movement rather than pushing out information.
Absolutely. I know I want to take this last bit of time, Sloan. This has been amazing, and I know that there's going to be a lot more questions that follow. I want to remind everybody that on the back of the pamphlet is the website. Please go and get signed up. I think that this is one of the things we've talked about so much is organizing. And just as you said, you can go and you can holler at a school board meeting, but it doesn't move anything if you don't have anybody behind you. So let's take some questions. We've got about 8 minutes for questions. Anybody have anything that's just burning? Yeah, go ahead.
My biggest problem is getting classmates, the parents' emails. I've had a lot of resistance from teachers saying we can't give that information to you. Do you have like some tips or pointers on how to go about getting that?
Sloan, so she's saying getting other parents' emails. What's the best way to do that? She has gone to the teachers for that information. How would you suggest is the best way for a parent just getting involved to get those other parents' information?
I mean, that's a difficult one. If they don't have a directory, well, I always like to have a petition. A petition is a great way just to get, I don't know about your class, but to get other people involved. So a petition that's, I don't know, kind of neutral to, I don't know, you can create something, but you have the parents sign the petition and then you get the email address. That might be one. That's a great question. I don't have an answer.
That's really good. And actually, maybe don't mask our kids petition, parents who are in support of not masking kids, because then you have your people too. Yeah. Yes, ma'am.
So one of the things I teacher, I had a little form filled out that can you please let us know your kid's birthday so that we can celebrate them as part of the birthday celebration that we're going to host. We want to have a special cake for each child. And so then the parents were like, yes, I want my kid to have their own cupcake. Absolutely. And so then we were able to, I actually got a lot of them. I wasn't using it for any of this, but it's a way you can get it. But you then have to be willing to celebrate birthdays.
And celebrate birthdays. That's really clever. Yes, questions. Let's take a couple questions. Yeah, go ahead. Come up here, and I'll just have you, so I'm not repeating it and wasting your guys' time. Here, come up here so Sloan can see you. All right, Sloan, here we go.
On your website, do you have a form letter for requesting records? You talked about a FOIA letter. Is there, I know you have one for North Carolina. Ours will be different because we have maybe different laws in Colorado, but I'm looking for a form letter so I can get lesson plans and reading lists.
We don't actually, because they're different for every state. And so, we could probably
I think we can work something out from that, from the parents that we have here tonight too. We'll get you something.
One other quick question. I have a 16-year-old who's a junior, and she's taking college-level classes, and I'm kind of concerned about her Psych 101 class that's going through the community college, and I'm wondering, since they're college students in high school, do we still have access to outlines and syllabuses and stuff like that? So
they're
that I
better
can know what they're
about
going to teach her at the college level.
Well, in college, they're better about that. They do put together syllabi, and they're very typically they're very open about that.
So I want to know if you have a list of laws that they're breaking. So under SEL or CRT, just a general one, because I don't know the law well enough to quote it. But if I had a list, I could learn it.
Okay, so on the back you have your major ones, and FERPA is for the surveys, so that's absolutely, and you can read sort of that. What I would do is I would read the law, and then you need evidence. So in other words, it's hard for me to know because there's so much. So compelled speech is a big one. Again, if they're having to take a test and acknowledge things against our conscience, like there are more than two genders or two sexes, I am a white supremacist. That's a big one. We've seen a lot of race confessionals. That's another one. That's called compelled speech.
Awesome.
Thank you so much for this. I just have one quick question. Now, I feel like a lot of these laws are getting passed behind our backs that we don't even know. And as a parent, we go to schools and we see this. As a parent of an individual kid, I can probably confront the principal, but what does it actually take to get it out of the system? How can I eliminate this standard? Like, I can scream my head off, but I don't feel like anything happens after that. It's just I'm just letting my frustration out, and then it continues. So have you seen examples of how or what it takes to actually get it out of the system completely?
Right. Okay, and so you just pointed to something very important. You need to figure out where the problem originates, right? Because a lot of times we're like, it's happening at our school, I'm going to talk to my principal, and that's the end of it. That's not true. And so it depends on defining your goal. In other words, if you're just trying to, live your life and mitigate as many problems as possible, that's how you do it, is right. Talk to the principal and the teacher. And that's fine for a lot of people, but you need a movement to do that. And so getting it out at the state level is very important. There's two ways, you guys, to protect your civil rights, ultimately: legislation and litigation. Right? So having a group like ours does both. And I'll tell you, great question that you just asked, because we have, as a part of our organization, investigative journalism, and that's what sets us apart. In other words, you guys as parents, we don't know where to look. Well, we're looking. So we're finding it and we're reporting on it that, hey, Colorado started doing this in 2017. Here's what it means. And because then you know where it's coming from, how to fight it. Very important.
Sloan, thank you so much. You guys, let's give it up for her so she can hear it.
Thank you.
This has truly been empowering. I feel so much better tonight than I did last night, yes? Thank you again so much. We're going to be turning our time over. For those who are at home, www.edfirstnc.org. Get connected. Sloan, thank you again.